Hello everybody and welcome back to the weekly English shooting live stream. Thank you very much for joining. I hope you've had a good couple of good weeks, and if you managed to make it down to the Magload open day in between the last live stream and now, thank you for joining. We will be talking a little bit about that a bit later on, but we do have some fairly promising news to start off with firearms licensing, actually some progression and actually trying to, I think, for once, pinpoint the actual problem. Before we get too into it though, don't forget to hit that like button and also make sure you're subscribed. It does really help the channel in growing and reaching new people, sharing news of the week, but also encouraging people into this sport. So hey, it's the handsome little one. Thank you, Daniel. Why I decided to share a house with you and a van with you for nearly over 3 weeks. I now think I can count myself lucky. I think you might have had some other things planned. Anyway, onto the main topic for this evening from Basque. Again, I do lean quite heavily on the news and updates from Basque, but they don't do a particularly good job of sharing it themselves, so I guess that's where I come in. College of Policing plans will improve firearms licensing, says Basque. Now, I'll take whatever Basque says with a little bit of a pinch of salt. If they think something's going to be good, like, I don't know, voluntarily transitioning away from lead, just don't always take things at face value. But this overall, I think, does look very promising. Proposed plans for firearms licensing officers to be annually accredited and assessed in England and Wales will enhance consistency across the licensing system, according to Basque. The reason that Scotland, Northern Ireland aren't included within that is because they have very separate firearms licensing and actually quite separate laws in various areas. So it really is just England and Wales that, the UK, not UK firearms, but that those are the two regions. The proposal was publicly made by Andy Marsh, Chief Executive at the College of Policing, during a Home Affairs Committee Policing Priorities Enquiry session earlier this month. God, they do like to throw around names, don't they? Like, just say it was a meeting. Policing Priorities Enquiry session. We had a meeting. Giving evidence on policing priorities, Mr. Marsh said one of the areas that we were looking at now with Home Office partners is whether, following the tragic shooting in Plymouth, firearms licensing officers should be annually accredited and assessed by College of Policing. I have to say that this is the first inclination or the first attempt since Plymouth by the Home Office, by the police, by firearms licensing, by the general media, that somebody's actually on the right line here, right? We had a tragic loss of life due to failures within firearms licensing. Perhaps we should address what's going on with the training within firearms licensing. This seems scarily too logical for me. There has to be a twist. They're going to be taught by Professor McGonagall or something. They're going to get it wrong somehow. This just seems too far on the right track. In response to the statement, Bill Harriman, Basque's Director of Firearms, commented, Basque has long campaigned for further consistencies in firearms licensing process. An annual accreditation and assessment process would be one way to achieve our objective of a level playing field across the 43 police forces in England and Wales. Of course, for anybody that doesn't know, firearms licensing within the UK is currently separated by county. So each county has their own firearms licensing department, and that's sort of the root of all of our issues, really. While this proposal would appear to still be in its early stages, Basque will be reaching out to the College of Policing so that our views can be fed into the process. Basque has for many years called for a recognised training standard for staff involved in firearms licensing. It is our belief that an accreditation would help to achieve it. So it does seem very logical, very promising. We do have this massive issue. I know I seem to find an excuse to bring it up every single live stream, but I really can't stress actually how important this document is going to prove to be. But this review of firearms licensing departments in England and Wales, where they've basically have called for a complete overhaul of firearms licensing, saying that it's just pretty much not fit for purpose. And of course you've got all the league tables where you can see the disparity not only in the cost but the service that is being delivered. And just because it's costing more per certificate doesn't necessarily correlate to it getting a faster service. Actually, some of the ones that are the most expensive, like Durham, $521.99 per certificate, they are taking some of the longest times to process certificates. We know there's a problem with firearms licensing. Left, right and centre experts and people within the industry are saying that it's broken, that it's close to collapse, and this was even before Plymouth, but Plymouth has certainly accelerated and compounded that, and it has highlighted massive deficiencies within firearms licensing and confirmed something that we all knew and have known. If you've been shooting certainly within the last 10 years, you would have known the disparity between counties, the disparity between firearms licensing. Whilst they are all meant to be singing from the same hymn sheet, they're all run by the same laws. Within England and Wales, we have exactly the same firearms law. There's the exact same firearms guidance. There's the statutory guidance for suitability that is issued to the Chief of Police. So they all have the same documents. They all have the same guidance and the same laws to follow and implement. But as you all know, every county has their own little flavour of firearms law, their own flavour of firearms guidance. They will interpret things differently. They will put in separate criteria. Some, for example, with practical shooting and practical shotgun with Section 1 shotguns in specifically, some counties will just take the fact that you're a member of the UK PSA, which was agreed to be the minimum standard to have good reason for a Section 1 shotgun. And some will go, no, you need to actually be a member of a club that participates in Section 1 shotgun shooting, and you also need to have passed a recognised safety course with that gun, and we're only going to limit you to one gun because we really don't like Section 1 shotguns. And you get these complete polar opposites. So consistency and a more uniform approach to firearms licensing is something that I think every single certificate holder, every single shooter within England and Wales, across the UK, even in Northern Ireland and up in Scotland, we all want to know what the actual state of play is. It's a very dangerous game to play because, well, if they go, if we want a level bar across, they're normally going to pick the harshest, strictest denominator. They're going to pick a county that really are sticklers for everything and use that to bring people down or bring people up to that same level. So, it is a question of be careful what you wish for, but it can be so hard to navigate our firearms laws and firearms licensing because you can speak to your friend who lives in Surrey going, what's it like? What's the process? What should I expect? When you're based in Hampshire and they say, well, this is the procedure, this is what I would advise, and then Hampshire have a completely different way of doing it, and then you're caught completely unaware, you don't really know where you stand, and it's not at all of what you're expecting. So your conformity, consistency, and a level playing field is something that we most definitely want. Who is going to oversee that? That is going to be a much bigger question, and that is where I think we could potentially see a little bit of danger. Again, something else that we have covered on the channel previously is Mulberry Partners. Now, this is, again, something that I think is ultimately with the best intention, but basically this company is formed from ex-chief of police or ex-senior police officers, and they have employed or contracted at least one ex-head of firearms licensing, or people that have been within firearms licensing departments. And this is the first private company to be sanctioned by FELWIG, the Firearm Explosives License Working Group, to be able to deliver training. And they are already delivering private training to firearms licensing departments. If you go on their website, there's all these things about security and technology partners and real world experience and blah, blah, blah. But the only thing that they've seemed to have actually done so far in terms of their latest video is firearms licensing and FELWIG. So that's their pitch video, and they've got their course video, and it spells it out. This is what they are providing. This is a private company that is receiving taxpayers' money to deliver a firearms licensing course to firearm inquiry officers, which on the face of it is a very good idea, because again, they're receiving the same training. At the moment, it is down to every firearms licensing department to train their own firearm inquiry officers, to train their own employees. And I think it's very evident that they're all doing it in very different ways and interpreting things very differently. The concern is that if this is going to be the company to that's going to effectively give out this training via the College of Policing. I'm not saying that is what's going to happen, but I don't think it takes a genius to work out that's where it could go. Who's vetting this training, right? Is this training actually right? And the thing that scares me the most, it just goes through all the, it's basically like the DVLA has a perception test. It's multiple choice. Maybe it's in this video. The thing that concerns me in terms of it being this itself being vetted, and accredited, is that the main guy here, specialist knowledge created by education professionals and firearms licensing expert Mark Gruthius. Of course, I've said before, he used to be the head of Hampshire Firearms, and it's not like Hampshire, and I'm trying to be as objective as possible here, or subjective as possible, and take my own experience out of it. But Hampshire do not have a very good reputation, and I've actually had the opportunity to speak to other firearms licensing employees, even heads of firearms licensing departments from other counties. They're not looked highly upon, mainly because they don't give a good reputation. It's not, believe it or not, it's not just myself that has difficulties with them. There are a number of people that find them quite challenging to deal with, quite difficult, and also their understanding or certainly interpretation of the law to be a bit interesting, to say the least. So this is the legacy, effectively, of Mark Gruthius, and now he's the one going around giving potentially that is going to give this unified, uniform training. So, are we going to get every firearms licensing department to be like Hampshire? I couldn't say whether that's necessarily going to be a good or a bad thing, but I'm sure you guys can make up your own mind of, maybe there are other counties we'd want to potentially model on more. So it's sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't approach. Yes, we need more unified approach. We need the training to be consistent. We need the advice to be consistent across all counties. And the only way you're going to get that is by bringing in a centralized, or certainly a more consistent training. And this is what Mulberry Partners are producing. There's nobody else producing it at the moment. I don't think the College of Policing really has the time, money or effort to really get involved with it. Where it will go, I don't know. I think, again, the general principle of what they are trying to do is absolutely brilliant and is long overdue. The implementation, on the other hand, that is going to be bigger question. And that is always, seems to always be the case with firearms licensing. You know, our firearms licensing system, the guidance and the law is incredibly robust. It does an incredibly good job overall. Where it's let down is by the implementation of it. That's exactly what we saw in Plymouth. There were all the checks and balances to prevent that from happening, but the right procedures weren't followed, the right T's weren't crossed, and the right I's weren't dotted. Procedure wasn't followed, and that's what allowed it to happen. So yes, the only way to prevent that is to make sure not only that you get unified training and everybody is interpreting things in the right way or the same way, but that also they are monitored. And I think this is another aspect or another big part of what is being announced, is this not just the unified training, but the annual assessment and accreditation. It sort of implies that if you don't keep up with, I suppose it doesn't work like with a driving license, but I guess more like a pilot's license. If you don't maintain a certain level, if you don't do a certain number of hours, if you don't, if new tests come out or new, you move to a new plane, you need to get accredited each time that you want to fly that new plane. So you need to keep familiar with the law, you need to keep familiar with firearms licensing, because it is ever evolving and always changing. So this annual accreditation and assessment means that they haven't just passed the test to get the job, they need to maintain a high level of understanding, they need to, they will have regular assessment to make sure that they are at the correct level. Again, what level that will be, we don't really know. I think that's very much behind closed doors. But the regular assessment, I think, is ultimately a good thing. I did see on the Facebook post for the stream, somebody did raise a very good point that it basically broke firearms licensing when they implemented the new statutory guidance for Chief of Police in terms of assessing people's suitability. A load of firearms licensing department basically shut their doors and went, we don't have time to implement new procedure. We don't have time to look at this new statutory guidance, and because we don't have time and because we don't have time to implement it, we're not going to do any certificates. And that was sort of the first hurdle, and then of course with COVID and everything like that. But that was one of their big excuses, was the statutory guidance, which of course they knew about for 2 years prior. So it's not like it snuck up on them or anything. But yeah, if they implement this new testing, if their FEOs have to go once a year to the College of Policing, or they have to sit an exam, they have to be assessed, there has to be accreditation, is that going to be a bigger load on firearms licensing? Is that going to be yet another thing that is potentially going to slow things down, take away resources, and lead to the overall collapse of firearms licensing? Or is this one of the things that is going to be paid for and the resources generated by the impending fee increase? We've heard figures of £200, £250 increase, well not increase, but a total certificate price of £200. That's quite a big increase. That's a good 150% increase over what it currently is. Are they going to use that money to pay for more FEOs so that the FEOs can actually be out of the office doing training, doing accreditation, and having their assessments? Is it going to pay for this training to make sure that it is unified and every single firearms licensing or every county is trained to the same level by the same people by the same course? I think it is all, there seems to be a hell of a lot going on at the moment, and I think it is all very much linked. At the end of the day, rolling out a training course that has been produced by a private company, that is being given by a private company, that doesn't come free. Companies aren't there to, just for the goodness of their own heart. They're trying to make money, they're trying to make a profit. So the money has to come from somewhere. Is that something that, as certificate holders, as firearms owners, that you're willing to pay for? Do you see that as a good thing? Would you like to see the money from a fee increase, from a certificate fee increase, go towards something like this? Do you think that it's going to improve service? Do you think it's going to improve consistency? Or do we go bigger? We've talked regularly about a complete overhaul and centralizing firearms licensing, something like the DVLA or a passport office, a central building with maybe satellite locations and FEOs that don't just work in Hampshire, they can work in a whole region, so that again there's going to be more, in theory, more consistency with that. Where do we go from here? I'm still of the firm belief that something needs to change. Improvements definitely need to be made. Is assessment, is accreditation a step that we should be taking? Let me know what you guys think. Again, just as a little as a reminder, first of all, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed. If you're watching and you're not liking, why are you watching? So hit that button. It's free. It literally takes a second. It's right there. And if you like what you see and you want to see more, because we do this every single week mostly, hit that subscribe button. What have you started? What? 100 likes and Callum will have a shave? No, don't have time for that. And it's winter. My face, I need my face to be warm and snuggly. If the stream reaches 100 likes, Callum gets switched out for Connors. If you can convince Connors to drive over here and take over, he's welcome to. So yeah, a big thanks everyone for joining, just catching up on the chat. Again, any comments, any questions, any topics that you want to bring up, please do get involved. There's no such thing as a bad question or a stupid question. If you've got any questions, if you have an opinion, then don't be scared. You can voice it. There's certain people like Daniel that may laugh at you, but don't worry. I'm a little bit more warm and cuddly. Dan, we sent your pink battle arms to Otto. Yeah, Dan, I'm gonna have to hold reserve judgment until I see it in the flesh. Seeing as David has seen it in the flesh and he's calling it pink, I don't know. I think you've definitely gone for an interesting colour. Well, wait and see until it's done. Who licenses Wales? No arm for Wales. Is it something to do with their big bore blowhole? Oh, that sounds wrong. Alexander Dale, my FAC just arrived. Beds, cams and hertz only took 20 days from interview to grant. Absolutely fantastic. That's more like it. It'll be interesting to know how long it took you to get the interview. If it took them like 9 months, and that's not so good going. But 20 days from interview to grant, that's in the current climate, that's actually pretty sharpish. Daniel, Hampshire doesn't have a good reputation. That's your FAC sent back to 2026. Who needs an FAC when you've got an RFD? There we go. All you children playing around with FACs. God, that's so like 3 years ago. Hampshire can be good, just depends on who you are. Maybe they've just got something against people that make YouTube videos. Anthony, 1,000 likes and it will be the face. And it will be the face what he shaves. I think I know what you're implying there. How come this is not a podcast? Watch this space. There's actually maybe this is a good. I was going to maybe leave it to later on in the stream, but there's a bit of channel and general update. So in terms of podcast, that is something that I am currently looking into, whether that is a recorded audio version of the stream, but the plans that I'm discussing is actually to bring on regular people. The podcasts are easier to an extent to do because they're recorded, and they're a lot easier to do remotely. You know, you don't need the best internet connection for just an audio. So we're definitely looking into it. And in terms of a general larger channel update, there is quite a big shift going, and I said it in the last stream about Arian from Outdoor Technica. Well, he's not just helping us with Magload at the moment, but he's actually agreed to come on board and help with EnglishShooting. It's got to a point now where I do just struggle for time. I can actually film videos fairly easily. I have a hard drive full of content that I've been meaning to get round to edit, but the editing process for me, it's just then there isn't enough hours in a day to sit down anymore and get through it. Like lockdown, you know, everything else aside, lockdown was fantastic for editing videos. I think I was smashing out across multiple channels. I was smashing out like 2 or 3 videos a week quite consistently, plus the live stream. But since the real world, everything's got back into the real world, and you know, Magload gets busier and my day gets less, and you know, general life commitments, it's got harder and harder. So we have the first video that Arian has edited will be going out very, very, very soon, and there's 3 more in the works, and I am absolutely blown away with what he's done straight off the bat. Actually, there's no reason I can't bring up. He was sending me over the preview. So yeah, I think the output of the channel is going to be more. I think as well, because he really does enjoy editing. So there's more additions to the video. I think the video is much higher quality overall. How do I, how do I, come on, here we go. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear this, but let's bring it up. So this is the review software that we were using. Oh no, is that the right one? Hey guys, this is... No, that's not the right one. There we go, that's the right one. Prepared as always. So yes, the long of the short of it is that I think I've finally come to terms with the fact that I just can't do it on my own anymore, and I need help in more ways than one. So yeah, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear this, if it's going to come through, but little sneak peek of this. So I know I've just reviewed the MRO, but we ended up getting the green dot MRO in recently, and I thought, whilst I have a red and I have a green, why not compare them? And it was quite interesting. It's not the difference that you think of it, just one being a red dot, one being a green dot. There is actually a significant amount of difference between the two. So yeah, a little sneak of what he's doing.
Hey guys, this is EnglishShooting. I'm Callum. Welcome back.
So yeah, very like we'd gone back and forth with like the raw edits, just the just the talking head portion, and we'd sort of like, right, I like the base of the video, and then he just went away and did the did the intro, and I just like absolutely wet myself. So the goal is to increase quality, and I think, you know, I'm so, it might not come across because it's live stream and it's through this sort of collaboration software, but super happy with the picture, super happy with the quality. The edit is absolutely amazing, and there's loads of little additions that are sort of new to the channel. So the goal is to increase output of content, which is always a good thing for a content creating channel, but also the quality. And we'll make no bones about it that this is sort of like Vision 100,000. So, I was talking to Ari and I was like, when you first start a channel, the first milestone is like your first 100 subscribers. You're like, ooh, and then it's the 1,000, and then it's like the 10,000, and 50,000 is a milestone to some degree, but for me, I've always seen it as like a stepping stone milestone for the 100k. Between 10,000 and 100k, that's, I think, well, certainly what I'm finding, that is where the real work starts. I've seen it, and I recognize usernames from the very beginning of this channel. I'm very sort of humbled in a way to have that real long-term core support group and viewership and subscribership to the channel, but trying to go from that sort of core, few thousand to that 100,000, like say maybe even core 10,000 up to 100,000 is just, that's the real work. So that's our sort of collective vision. So you will be hearing a lot more about Arian. You will be most likely seeing him on the channel. We'll probably try and get him down for a live stream, or hold a live stream back at Magload again, and get Connors and Paul on as well. But we've been talking about podcasts and getting involved with podcasts, releasing that on the channel, or some other channel. And yeah, just new videos idea, new takes. So yeah, very, very exciting. I'm incredibly happy and thankful for Arian for getting involved. And I think for me, if that's a taste of what's to come, then it's going to be absolutely epic. So yeah, we spent I think it was last Saturday, we filmed that red dot versus green dot for the MRO. I know, before I've even done it, said anything, I know that Daniel's there playing with himself silly, because I keep on saying MRO and green MRO and this, that and the other, and he's probably going to wet himself when he sees the video. But yeah, red dot versus green dot for the MRO. We did full review and sort of spec breakdown of the Battle Arms Authority Elite that I use for competition. You've seen enough of that gun on this channel. I think it was about time that actually sat down and talked about it and went over the exact setup. Talked about the aero precision build that Cotswold Classic Arms makes, because that's what Arian shoots within mini rifle here within the UK, and he brought it down. So I thought, let's actually talk about it and the differences to Battle Arms, and also what the similarities, because it's all built by Cotswold Classic Arms. And what else? Oh yes, reviewed the been meaning to do this since they very kindly sent them out to Kentucky, but the core belt, seriously the best belts I've ever used, and the belt that I use every single day. So yeah, that's something that I just haven't had the time to even film, never mind sit down there and edit a video, and now Arian can take care of it. So yeah, I'm very aware over the previous few months it's been harder for me to get content out, but with actually somebody else to help, then we should only go from strength to strength. Plus I still have an enormity of content that I can actually sit down and edit myself when I find time, the tour of the Phoenix pay and play range up in Barnsley. That is so close to being done, and that will be going out. And of course all the match videos from last year will be going out over the next few months, so still plenty to look forward to. He should go to, Callum, are you going to SHOT Show in January? Probably not, if I'm going to be completely honest, but I will be going to IWA for the first time. Well, it's not 100% confirmed, but there are talks, and I think it's about time that firstly as a channel we went out there, but also Magload will be going out there as well. If everything, it looks very promising. I'm very much one of these people until it's signed on the dotted line and it's all confirmed, but it's looking very promising. So we should be out in IWA. The problem with SHOT Show is I can't really justify it just for the channel alone. You know, if we get to that 100,000 subscribers, then you know, perhaps it would be more justified. But we looked at it for Magload actually last year or the year before, and it is insanely expensive for a company to have a stand there. And even just the base price, you're talking thousands of pounds just to have the stall, and that's, you know, never mind shipping over demo product and all of the hotel fees and the travel fees. That's why we actually went for the option of doing the tour that we did back in April, because we were actually able to go and see the people that we wanted to go and see directly. Yes, I know that there's lots of opportunities that are opened up by SHOT Show, and I'm sure it'd be a hell of a good time. But yeah, for myself to justify going over there just for the channel, it's not. It's just not feasible at this point. Again, it's on the bucket list. 100% I will do it, but very pleased that it looks like we'll be able to tick off that IWA bucket list, as I've only ever heard good things, and it's just across the channel, really. Does SHOT Show invite for a media? It does have a media application. I've looked at that in the past. I don't think I would have a problem getting a media pass. I think I fit the criteria just about. I mean, if I don't, I'd be interested to know what the criteria it was. Alexander Dale was offered an interview within 2 weeks. That is phenomenal. So you're saying that you got like a complete turnaround from submitting application to getting your FAC in just over a month. That is pretty fantastic. In terms of other updates, yes, Bullet and Pixels. Yes, we do have a slight magazine update. So for those of you that don't know, Magload is making an AR-15, a 2.2 AR-15 magazine, like a universal magazine to work with CMMG conversion kits, the 1522, even the Tippmann, Chris Defiance, and others. And you know, it's taken a little longer than we had expected. That would probably be an understatement. But we are actually we're driving up to the injection molders on Monday. So we had the first production test run arrive, and we knew that if that was going to be good, then we'd be in full swing production. But the consistency wasn't there. So we had nailed the design, and that was the post that went out on Magload a few weeks ago to say, like, designing and testing is done. We are now into production. The first sort of production run light came off, and then you need to check that the tolerances are being maintained. They weren't, so we've needed to go back to them and say, look, they need to, we need less variation between mag, because the tolerances are fairly important. Like as you know, it's pretty obvious with a gun, but you know, they've never made a magazine, they've never made something, I think, of this complexity, so it's a learning experience for them. And they basically said, look, the best thing is for you to come up to our manufacturing facility, we will run them off, and you can stand there and say yes or no, and that, you know, basically we can be there with all the different guns, we can be testing them dry fire, you know, while they come off of the machines, and we can then give them the tolerance. We can say, you know, anything up to here is good, anything down to there is good as well, but anything outside of that we will just reject. So, you know, it's then down to them to maintain that tolerance and send us what we need. And the really good thing is that they are only, I think, like 15 or 20 minutes away from Llanbradach. So we will be on Monday going there, doing the production run, dialing in the tolerances, or them dialing in the tolerances, and then when we go, right, these are all good, these all work, dry fire, then we will hightail it up to Llanbradach, and we will test a batch. The plan after that is then to go back. So meanwhile, while we're going and doing this final test, they will run off the magazines. We will go back after the live fire testing and pick up the first production run. So, all going well, we will be driving back on Monday evening with the first production run of the magazines, everything going well. And we will then be able to start assembling them on Tuesday with the goal for the first units, again, everything going well, the first units being sent out on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. So, I mean, I think myself and Connors, we are pretty determined that we are not going to come away from the injection molders without working magazines that we can start fulfilling orders with, whether or not we have to chain ourselves to an injection molding machine or I don't know, hold someone hostage. We will be coming away with stuff that we can start sending out. That is very much the goal. So that is the update. Again, we had hoped that we'd be at this process or this point maybe a couple of weeks ago, but we've been blunt with them. We've said, look, we're not going to drive all the way up to Wales for shit to come off of the injection molding machines. If we're coming up there, we are coming away, we are not wasting a whole day of our time to come up there to come away with nothing. So you better be damn sure. We've told them, you need to get the tolerances down, you need to get the consistency up. It sounds like firearms licensing. If you're confident we can do that on the day, then we will come up. If you're not confident, then don't waste our time. Go back and do what you need to do. But they're like, no, everything that needs to be done, we can do it, and we can do it while you wait. And I think they also want a little bit of a shoot. We've been tempting them with going up and having a bit of a firing off a few rounds. So that is the magazine update. It is, I'm not going to say for certain, but it looks like everything from what we know, it looks like we should be starting to dispatch Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Yay! Finally. Are you going to end up with a studio at the factory? Yes, that is a big plan. It is a more medium to long term. So this was one of the things, like just having somebody else there when Arian came down to do some filming, and just had another set of eyes, and somebody else, somebody's another take, basically another opinion. We ended up finding this really, well, I say really nice, it's literally just the white wall, but I think it works really well. The table setup, the lighting setup, I think we just absolutely nailed it. So the need for an actual studio is less now that I know there's this consistent space and the videos can go back to being very consistent. Like, of course, there's still going to be videos here. I think more the review and product videos will be done at Magload with that sort of white backdrop, and more the news, political, firearms laws type videos, they will still be done here with this setup. But yeah, I think the plan is for Ariane to come down every few weeks, maybe once a month. We'll smash out a load of videos, and then he'll be able to edit them remotely, and then I'll be able to upload them. But yeah, the studio, what we need at Magload, so for anybody that attended the open day, so Magload did have a big open day the other week, so just for anyone that missed it, and for anyone that didn't and came down, thank you very much for joining us. We really enjoyed the day. So we obviously had all of our Magload products out on demos so that you could try, guns out for you to have a display with. Oh, familiar face. See, I do shave. I just don't maintain it. And we had loads of activities throughout the day. So Mr. Magload himself in front of one of the many machines that we have at Magload. Of course, we had Cotswold Classic Arms there with a selection of his guns. We will be talking about one in a second. Did I not include the picture of it for this post? Probably not, but we also had Zero West. I kept telling you about them, and they had their James Bond display case, Walther PPK, like a James Bond inspired watch, and loads of inspired gizmos and gadgets from the films, as well as a number of their sort of motor racing and plane inspired watches. Of course, Caliber Innovations were there. Unfortunately, we were so busy, and I'm very grateful for everyone that came, but I think there was 3 or 4 hour period where I didn't sit down or didn't like stop talking to somebody, and I didn't have a huge amount of time to go around and actually try everything out. But he had the new Takom 2.2 guns there. That's something that I wanted to get behind. Of course, we did actually get like one of the first sneak peeks outside of Takom when we went and visited, where he showed us the quite an innovative bolt and receiver system. Well, Caliber Innovations is the UK stockist for them, and you know, it is a built from the ground up 2.2 rifle, Kel-Tecs. I am still tempted by one of those, I have to say, and a number of new guns. We had some action air shooting, so you could get involved. We also had the Mantis Blackbeard X out there for people to get hold of, and also some VR shooting, and just a general photo of the day. This was actually towards the end of the day when it had started to sort of ease up. We also had iWholesales there as well, not forgetting, so all your action air and airsoft needs. It was just a really nice day, whilst a lot busier than I think we could have hoped for. And I was absolutely knackered afterwards. It was really enjoyable. So thanks everyone for coming down. If you did, we will be holding another one in the summer, so an actual like proper barbecue, and we won't be necessarily so cold as we were on Saturday. Ruben Shaw, got my first air rifle a few days ago. However, I'm ill and haven't shot it yet. Until I next go to the range a week and 1 day after I bought it, if I'm still not ill. Well, have fun. There's nothing worse than having a new toy or new gun to go and play with and not being able to go and play with it. Just rip the audio from the stream and turn it into a podcast. I think the issue with that would be that I refer to a lot of pictures and websites and stuff like that. I always have visual aids. I don't know necessarily if it would translate well to a podcast. Of course, I do tend to read a lot of the news articles out, but in terms of referring to the images, just like that, just showing you pictures of the open day, that wouldn't translate well to a podcast. And also, I think the thing about a podcast is having more than just one person. It's more of a conversation. So either you have the same 2-3 people, or you get guests in, and you talk about their experience and where they come from shooting and in the industry, and you open up different points of view. You'd miss my evenings hearing Callum's voice whispering sweet nothings into your ear. But you still have the pajamas with Callum's face on. Do not want to know. You can drop my order off as a birthday present. That might be a little bit too optimistic. And plus, you're not skipping the queue. That queue is now at least 6 streets long now, Daniel, and you're close to the back, if not right at the back. Connor should walk around with a battle axe, a battle axe and helm at all times. Yeah. That Kel-Tec, is it available with a 16-inch barrel? Well, David is the man to talk to, as he's the guy that sells them. Yes, they have them in 16-inch. Yeah, it did look like a good day, Daniel. It did. Shame that obviously we're not as we're not as good friends, or we're not as important enough as we thought to you for you to turn up and support us. And I guess that is about your magazines. I'll put you to the back. I mean, if you're not even going to bother to turn up to our open day, why are we going to try and prioritize your order? In terms of talking about stuff from the open day, and this is where I've been as prepared as always. I know where I can find it. It might take me a second to find it, but there is I'm going to say interesting gun. It's not necessarily interesting because it's not particularly new, but I did post this last week when I wasn't able to do the stream, and on that note as well, again, apologies we weren't able to do the stream last week, but with Black Friday it is by far the busiest period of the year for us, and I was just done. Absolutely 100% done. And I saw it. As soon as it's, because I put the announcement out, I was like, oh, I could still do it. And then I was literally falling asleep on the sofa, and I thought, that's not going to be, I'm going to be able to do like 20 minutes, and you'll just end up watching me sleep on stream, which I'm sure Daniel would love nothing more than to spend his evenings watching me sleep. He tried in Kentucky. But a gun that is coming out from Cotswold Classic Arms is a straight pull 223 Section 1 SA80. So I believe this is the only one in existence at the moment. This is his sort of functioning prototype / demo gun. You can see you've got the straight pull element on the side and the bar that goes back. And yes, Daniel, that is a bullpup. But yeah, 223 straight pull SA80. And from what I understand, so obviously it's very hard for UK legal versions, or I say Section 1 versions of this to come about. I know there are some in existence, and they're usually converted 22 cadet, or they're either a 22 cadet that have somehow made their way out of MOD, and then people have converted them to 223. But the main issue is that they are predominantly, apart from the 22 cadet versions, they are predominantly made as Section 5, and once Section 5, always Section 5. So it's very hard to get a 223 variant. Now, I believe what Otto is doing is I think this one is based on a 22 cadet, but there are a lot of parts that are being made from new. I think potentially even all of them. I need to spend, again, I didn't have a huge amount of time to get the nitty gritty of it, but they will be full-fledged 223 straight pull SA80. So I know any previous cadets out there, you're probably going to want one. Certainly anybody that has served in the British Armed Forces or has any sort of interest is going to want one. And it is cool that there is going to be this option available. So I don't know when it is likely to be available. Of course, you're free to message and get in contact with Cotswold Classic Arms. Otto, he's going to be doing his best to get this out as soon as possible. He does have his hands full. I do know that he's got a backlog of battle arms to build. He's got a load of receiver sets from battle arms that are trying to get into the UK. He's also got the new Korth revolvers, which are due to land any day, and I think he might be sending one down to us at Magload, because I know Connors is incredibly interested in it. So we may be the first outside of Cotswold Classic Arms to get our hands on it. So there's a lot going on there. Meanwhile, he's got a young baby developing SA80s. he's a busy man. So yeah, I'm hoping that as soon as he maybe has another one, or he's finished development with this, that he can send the SA80 down to us, and we can have a proper in-depth look at it, maybe even go down to the range and have a bit of a play. So very much looking forward to seeing where that goes. Josh Britton, hopefully it is an A2 based and not A1. I can't say. I honestly don't know. Again, I don't have a huge amount of details about it. It's there. I'm looking at it. I took it off the stream, but you can look at it with me as well. I don't know. Are there any experts that could decipher what variant it is from that picture? That is literally the only picture that I have of it. But it's nice. It's very nice to have this option, and it's a British gun. It's used by the British military, designed for them. I know there is the constant joke of like, should we be using it? But we do. It is a part of our military history, and I know based on that, the same reason that people feel obliged as an Englishman to have an Enfield, a Lee Enfield on their certificate, for sort of the same reason people want to have one of these. it's I think even going to be like a collector's piece as well. It's a bit of British military history. And having said that, you know, I was one of those, you know, proud Englishmen that decided that the first historic or vintage gun that I'd buy was a Mosin Nagant, mainly because, and okay, there are elements of why the Lee Enfield is much cooler, but the Mosin Nagant carbine is just cool as hell. The flamethrower, like, I was like, yes, screw being a British, you know, an Englishman, I want the Mosin. And of course, very bitter that the fact that I don't have that. But as soon as my tickets land, I will be getting a replacement. That may even be the first gun. There will be lots of guns that I instantly sign on to the certificate, of course, but that will probably be the first one that I go out there and actually buy and get, and, you know, source one, buy it and sign it onto the certificate. Because of course I do still have guns that were previously on my certificates that are stored at Magload. So not all of them got sold off. Stuff like my Beretta Silver Pigeon, the 1522, even though I don't really use that anymore, but it's actually quite sentimental in some degree. So, you know, yeah, there's what else do I have as remnants? I think it might just be those, but there will be more guns that get, you know, no doubt get instantly signed on to the certificate. But yeah, the Mosin, that's the one I regret the most, mainly because they've like tripled in value and it's going to cost me significantly more to get that one back. Number 3 Mark 1, number 4 Mark 2 and P14 are all on my list. I would, and I know Daniel's going to sit there rubbing his nipples, but for me, I like things that are a little bit different. I like it's sort of cliche because so many people say this, but I like seeking out things that maybe not everybody goes for, not that not everybody has, but isn't like the obvious option. And for me, when it comes to Enfields, the one that's a little bit different, a little bit maybe more special, is the Delisle. I would absolutely love to go for a Delisle. Unfortunately, I had a full basic bitch moment, and I went for 303 on the application, not the 45 for the Delisle. But, you know, a bit of variation in. And, you know, shooting is very much a part of my life. I'd love to get into collecting as well and actually finally learn a bit more about the history of the guns like the Lee Enfield. I say all the time, when it comes to the older stuff, the vintage, that's really not my bag. Not that I don't enjoy it, but it's just I don't have the knowledge. And certainly when I'm making videos, and I know some of you're just going to laugh at this, but if I don't hold the knowledge on it, why would I make a video on it? Please don't go back into the older videos. But I tend to like to make videos from experience or from something that I've learned, and I just don't know enough about those guns. But starting a collection, I probably would get to. Delisle is a dream, but so rare and expensive. Absolutely, the sort of the appeal of them, you know, is just, you know, that it is something special overall. David Kiddle, there are over 12 straight pull SA80s on UK FACs. That's, you know, there might be, you know, a few out there, but that's still a really small number. You think about all the figures for the Mars and the lever release. You know, there were considerably more Mars and lever release, and they were pretty uncommon guns. Danny Whiten, you host A1 channel, Callum. Just keep doing what you're doing. Appreciate that. Thank you for dropping by. If you appreciate what we do, hit that like button, and subscribe if you're not already. Hopefully Otto's store opens soon. I need to drop off my Delisle for him to work on. That Delisle, I swear there's not a day that Delisle hasn't had some work. It is that, I swear it's spent more times with RFDs than it has with you. Aaron T, I'm joining the Army in the future, and the Army have the new SA-80A3 version, but they are also testing a Glock AR-15 and Lantac to fully replace all SA-80s. Well, I hope they don't need the customer service department from Lantac. Or maybe that's what Lantac needs, the Army. Like, who are you? With the British Army. Okay, then all right. I'll actually give some customer service for once. Wild Arms Research and Development. I had a bunch of L85 parts in the US, and I got yelled at on the Discord for having them. But if you have a load of in the US, what's the issue? Carl Volt, Daniel, please, for the love of God, get a straight pull NGSW. Josh, they're a lot of fun. You can buy mine, Callum. I'll offer you 500 quid. 500 quid on a pack of Haribo. There we go. There's the magload offer. The magload offer for you. But yes, be interesting to see when that comes to market. A little less cute and fluffy news, if you can call an SA-80 cute and fluffy, is the continued attacks. Again, like something that we quite regularly talk about now on the channel, because there's a new article every single week, it seems. Fears over shooting club as politicians call for tighter firearm restrictions. So this is off the back of all of these Daily Record article. Brother of Dunblane victims as horror of massacre gave him a voice for gun control fight. Families of Dunblane victims call for shooting club ban amid fear of trivialising guns. Firearm loophole allows practical shooting clubs in Scotland uncovered. Dunblane Massacre MP wants loophole closed for unlicensed Scots gun club, and it's seeped out into other newspapers and articles as well. But this is the first time that we've actually, we've seen it get political, but this is now black and white, what they want, what is going to happen, and this is what I saw from the start. I remember I was talking to the guys at Recoil, and I said, look, don't treat this as something that you can just sweep under the rug and keep quiet and hope it doesn't blow up. Look, this is now the 6th article that has been released by this paper. It's being put into print as well. It's on their website, and I've heard that there has been some interest from the broadsheets as well. So that's the danger of these articles going unchecked, is that they generate interest from much bigger news outlets, and it becomes a much bigger issue for us as a sport. But there's just some absolute ridiculousness. Like, the contradictions within this are just absolutely insane. It is truly gutter journalism. Politicians in communities affected by mass shootings are calling for tighter firearm restriction amid the growth of practical shooting clubs. SNP MP Alan Smith, who represents Dunblane, and Luke Pollard, the Labour MP for Plymouth, want an overhaul of existing gun laws and a ban on pump action weapons. I called this a good few weeks ago. There's a massive hard-on at the moment for pump action weapons, specifically pump action shotguns, because it was a pump action that was used in Plymouth. Despite the fact that he killed 5 people in, I think it was 9 or 12 minutes, it wouldn't have mattered if you'd used a pump action, a semi-auto, a full auto, a single shot, a side-by-side, an over and under, or a single shot bolt action 2.2 rimfire rifle. 5 people in 9 or 12 minutes. I can't remember how long the spree went on to. That is actually a massive amount of time, and you compare it to other shootings as well that actually go on for a lot less and a lot more people are killed. It is nothing with completely different guns. It is nothing to do with the fact that it's pump action, but we have seen them touch on this whole pump action. We've seen them touch on Plymouth, and this is the first time that they have fully come out and said that, you know, this is basically what they're supporting. This is basically what they're getting on. They want to ban practical shooting clubs. They want to ban pump action, and it's ridiculous because, of course, nobody is like, nobody's talking about semi-autos or box fed. Like, again, I know, maybe but like, why pump actions? Oh yeah, because it was the one that was used in the shooting. Absolutely no logic there. That's not the issue. Pump action shotguns are not the issue here. The issue was the poor implementation of firearms guidance by Devon and Cornwall Firearms Licensing Department. Campaign Group, Gun Control Network are meeting with the Home Office. Again, why these people are given any sort of voice? They have no experience, no expertise, or no like formal qualification or knowledge when it comes to firearms or firearms law. They continuously make quite laughable mistakes or assumptions when it comes to the law, and yet they get to sit down in front of the Home Office and parade themselves as expert. So we'll meet with them next week over new weapons. What do you mean new weapons? Like a pump action. It's like, sorry, have you like, when was the Remington 7? I know it's not necessarily the first. Does anybody know what the first pump? Okay, I can probably Google that actually. So Remington 870 is just, you know, the standard pump action, let's just say. In service 1950s. It came into service. What is the, let's just go, the first pump action shotgun. Pump action Wikipedia. Let's have a quick look at this. History. The first slide action patent was issued to Alexander Bain of Britain in 1854. Oh, these new weapons we need to get out of the hands of certificate holders. Many older pump action shotguns can be fired faster than what? Many older pump-action shotguns can be fired faster than modern ones, as often they did not have a trigger disconnector. So you can slam fire. So you can fire firing a new round as fast as the pump action was cycled with the trigger held down consistently. The technique is called slam fire and was often used in conjunction with the M1897 in the First World War's trench warfare. Is there any other dates? So M1897. Well, yeah, okay. I think that was pretty obvious what year it was going to be. Winchester model 1897 shotgun. So this is, so by no stretch of the imagination are these new weapons, right? They have been around for literally over 100 years, and this is the sort of bullshit that they get away with, you know, over new weapons. They're going to present it to the Home Office that there is this craze of people wanting to own pump action shotguns, all right, you know, and practical shooting clubs. It comes after a Sunday Mail investigation uncovered. Yeah, this is where it starts to get silly. Uncovered a loophole in firearms law, meaning that new US-inspired gun clubs don't fall under the strict licensing, apart from the fact that practical shotgun originated in the UK, that mini rifle originated in the UK, and Action Air originated out in the Far East, none of which are the US. Don't fall under strict licensing law. But this is the level of contradiction, right? The Sunday Mail discovered that anybody with a license for certain types of guns is able to set up so-called practical shooting clubs on private land without the need for police, government, or local authority and licensing. So anybody with a license doesn't need what? Anybody with a license can seriously, did they? It's in the same bloody sentence. Do they just not, people that have obtained these licenses can get away with doing stuff without a license, apart from with the license that they've already obtained for doing stuff that they're going to do without a license. Like what is the anyway, so I really don't think this is going away. Again, there's been, I think, an uncomfortable amount of silence from the shooting community about this in terms of dispelling a lot of the misinformation, and also an attempt to recontrol the narrative. At the end of the day, they're applying this narrative that these are some loopholes, even though they contradict themselves so often within, new weapons. The fact that they've been here for over 100 years, or some of the oldest weapons that you're able to buy on a Section 1 or Section 2. So they get away with that, and they get away with contradiction themselves with this is a loophole, while saying that you still need a license to be able to do it. And they seem to be relatively going unchecked. And I think ultimately that is dangerous. They're going to continue to do this. And once again, the journalist, I think, let's see, Jennifer Highland, Sunday Mail, last time I checked, she had actually disappeared off of the face of Twitter. That doesn't say a lot about how much you stand behind your own journalism when you are, you're challenged on it and you decide to delete yourself off of social media. Like, that just says to me that you are just, you're hiding, right? That you've done gutter journalism, and you don't even have the backbone to stand up for what you've written. If you had any decency, any professionalism, or you really truly believed what you were writing, you would want to defend it when people, but there's been none of that. And the typical tactics of ambushing people for quotes and comments with literally a matter of hours of deadline. They're not after the truth. They're not after balanced journalism. But that doesn't mean that we should be kept quiet. Well, we should be quiet and not challenge and try ourselves to control the narrative with the truth. But yeah, I think more needs to be done from the shooting community to protect against attacks like this. And mark my words, this won't be the end of it. And unfortunately, what we could see is this lead to us losing pump action shotguns, and Connors will not be happy. It will, it's just, we can be, I think, our own worst enemies sometimes. To see, was that Heppy talking about, so Ithaca pumps, those were 1930s. Well, I managed to find one a little earlier. D Doherty, good night chaps. Dead battery, thanks for the info. Callum, thanks for joining. I hope your battery recharges soon. Just Britain, yeah, I don't think I would stop shooting if I got one. I saw a butchered Delisle on Reddit. I hope it was a reproduction. You didn't give me any Haribo when I bought the 1022 parts. That's because you got a discount, you cheeky beggar. And you didn't ask for it. We would have given you Haribo, but I'll give you 2 bags of Haribo and 500 quid for that Delisle. Go on, name your price. Clickbait articles drive sale of newspapers. This is all they care about, driving sales and not good journalism. They do, and this is why I keep saying that you need to make it more dangerous for them in their political career to attack or to put out these pieces. Again, they just want to sell papers. They want their own paycheck. They want a relatively easy life. They also they want to progress their career. They want to go and work for a broadsheet and maybe a more prestigious newspaper. Well, if they attack a story and it blows up in their face and they end up being shown to be unprofessional, and their journalism is not to a good standard, that is going to hurt their career progression. That's going to, potentially call into question their job and their livelihood, and they soon want to switch off. Again, this is exactly what we saw with Sean O'Neill. As soon as things actually got a bit dicey for him and he was like, shit, they're going to make me look like a complete idiot, that's when he backed off and he was like, right, I'm going to find another story, and there's going to be something easier to report on. And as long as we allow them to get away with it, they're going to continue doing it. Alexander Dale, member for 3 months on Only ES Fans. Again, if as a reminder, if you want to support the channel and be part of the very exclusive club of Only ES Fans, I might change that name at some point, then you can join the channel and help support. Journalistic integrity, what's that in 2022? I know, but we still need to try and hold them to account. Sam Davison, thank you for supporting. Of course, you can use supers if you don't want to join regularly, but appreciate that. Did you see on Coley One War, he had a former Firearms UK officer on. The former officer didn't really know the basic laws of firearms ownership in the UK. Yes, I have seen that video. I did think about maybe making a reaction video to it. Maybe I should do that. It would be quite interesting, but I did have a little watch through and it was ridiculous. It was incredibly indicative of my own experience with firearms officers in the UK. Not only do we have an issue with our firearms licensing departments and firearm inquiry officers, the people that come out and do your interview for your certificate, not only do we have an issue with them misunderstanding the law, but literally the people with the guns in the police also don't know their arse from their elbow sometimes when it comes to firearms. I've said this before, when they came to confiscate my guns, they had the list and they were like, right, where's the over and under shotgun? And I was like, well, there's only one shotgun left in the safe. And they picked out, I think it was the Remington 700, they basically picked out a bolt action rifle and they went, is this it? I was like, sorry, somebody's trusting you with a gun, someone's trusting you with a pistol, a rifle and a taser, and you can't even tell the difference between an over and under shotgun and a bolt action rifle. like basic firearms familiarity, I think, should be at least a minimum requirement to be a firearms officer here in the UK, to actually know what certain guns look like as a start. But yes, it didn't surprise me at all. At the end of the day, people, there's been this I think it's a misinformation or maybe misunderstanding. It'd be interesting to actually get to the bottom of it. I've heard rumours for years that if you have any interest in firearms at all, you're not allowed to be a firearms officer, because it's like, they see it as potentially a conflict of interest. Why do you really want to go around with a gun in the police? Is it because you've got some deep fascination with it, or you're a weirdo or whatever? But in some way, I think you need some sort of interest in firearms. If you're going to be a firearms officer, if you're going to be potentially called to make that life or death decision, you want to be incredibly familiar with that gun. You hear of all the accidents that happen of, police firing through their windows by accident and shooting bystanders by accident. Perhaps if they had a bit of interest and therefore a bit more skill with the firearm that they're using, it would be safer for everybody. And then, of course, when there is an issue with a gun, when a gun is discovered or it needs to be made safe, if you don't know what you're doing, if you can't tell the difference between a bolt action rifle and a over and under shotgun, how can you safely handle any random firearm you're likely to come up against? I'm not saying this as a blanket for all firearms officers. I'm sure there are some incredibly talented and knowledgeable firearms officers that do their job incredibly well, but I've had first-hand experience of those that I wouldn't trust with a rolling pin, never mind a G36 or Glock. He lives in the UK now, so gets away with talking rubbish. Yeah, I saw this. I can't remember what it was, but it was on. I can't remember who he was. But it was on Iraq Veteran 8888. Used to watch that channel all the time until Barry died or left and then died. Like, he was really the backbone. Like Eric really just rode off of Barry. That sounds wrong, but you know what I mean. If you know about Iraq Veteran 8888, I just couldn't watch it anymore. I tried, it just wasn't as fun. It became far too commercial, and I just loved that really casual, like, natural approach. You know, Barry would literally, nothing was scripted. He would literally just say what he thought. Anyway, they got some sort of British firearms expert or British shooter, and again, if you've seen that video, like, he gets a lot of it right, but it's, at best, it was massively outdated. But there were, from memory, there were a number of inaccuracies and mistakes, and it's like, it's not like there aren't a number of UK specific firearms channel. And I'm not saying like it should be me, but they could go and talk to Neil at Rack and Load. They could go and talk to the TGS Outdoors. I always say the acronym wrong, but the Gun Shop Outdoors. Go and talk to Johnny. He's fairly knowledgeable about the firearms, our firearms law. I'm gonna get lambasted now by not, like, even like Range 23. Like, they could go and talk. Bob's like fairly up to speed with firearms laws. There's loads of like active UK shooting channels that would do a far better job of giving like an expert opinion on firearms law or an interview. Maybe I should reach out. Thing is, if I go on like Iraq Veteran 8888, I'll just be like, bring back Barry. Okay, I know he's dead, but like, I want to talk to Barry. Daniel Barry, the heart of the channel. Someone leaked their costs for reviewing a gun, and it was obscene. Yeah, but that's the YouTube money for you, isn't it? Aaron T, have you heard that Canada plans on banning all semi-auto, including shotguns? I've heard various rumors, and that it's not just going to stop with the handgun ban that they've recently had. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Trudeau really does seem to be on one. Somebody, Josh, saying we should copy the Czech gun laws. Really interesting article that I was actually sent by Otto. So, Otto knows a few things about the Czech Republic. But this is a really interesting story by the Washington Post. I haven't had a chance to fully like take it in yet, but I thought I'd share it to you guys. So it's done by the Washington Post. What if gun owners had to pass a test? Czech Republic offers an answer. And this is something that, again, I've been fairly consistent on throughout the years, and saying, like, it's not about gun control. It's not about laws and restriction and what guns you can or can't own. The biggest impact, in terms, from what I understand and from my own beliefs, the biggest impact for gun crime and firearm safety comes down to education and training. Let's not get into the discussion of your God-given rights to the right to bear arms and all of that. I just think it seems common sense that just like with a car, you require to pass a test before you're able to go out there and use it, especially when you have public ranges. And I've heard all sorts of horror stories from public ranges in the US, and it's very much a case of, like, for me, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And yes, at the age of 18, you can go out in America and buy any gun you want and go pretty much anywhere to go and shoot it on public land or a public range, or obviously private ranges. But I think you have some level of responsibility to make sure that whilst you can just go out there and buy a gun and start using it, that you should be responsible and actually go and get some training, get some education on how you safely use that gun. So, not only are you not a danger to yourself, but you're not a danger to anybody else. But this article goes through actually all of the tests that they go through within the Czech Republic, and a little bit about their laws. And I think generally the consensus of the Washington Post was that this is, they're hailing it as some way as an answer. So you can go check that out on the Washington Post. What if gun owners had to pass a test? Of course, any barrier to the right to bear arms in America is going to be fought by great resistance, and I understand it to a point. Give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. That's certainly what we've seen here. Now they take guns that haven't even been used in crime away for the public safety. But I find it very hard to argue against some level of basic training and education on firearms. To me, it just could be that I'm just a brainwashed Brit, but to me it just makes sense. I think it makes sense for anyone. I don't see the harm in having that. Treat guns like we do cars, as you say. I do hate the comparison between guns and cars a lot of the time, but again, you don't, at the age of 18, you don't chuck the keys to a 40-ton articulated lorry and say, have at it, I'm sure you'll work it out. Why should it be any different to a firearm? Yes, the Second Amendment is a hell of a topic to discuss and a very touchy subject. That's what I'm here. Considering the Czechs were a communist dictatorship 30 years ago shows there is some hope with gun rights. Worth noting, gun laws vary massively from state to state. They do, absolutely. There is the whole constitutional carry that is sort of sweeping throughout the US. Whilst they like to say, things are getting worse and Biden's constantly trying to get our guns, from what I see, things just seem to be getting better and better in America when it comes to rights for gun owners and their ability to own guns. It just seems to be getting easier, if not not harder. Some ranges I visited in the USA had a buddy system. I was able to shoot only because we were a family. Yeah, the minimum of 2 rule is quite common. I've seen that when I've been out in the States. You phone up a range and if you come with another person, we're fine. They don't have to have any shooting experience, but we need 2 people on the range or 2 people in a bay or whatever. I was very lucky, when I was out in California, and I know all of the places to go shooting, to go to California, but the Oak Tree Gun Club, they allowed me to turn up there on my own, and I actually, on one of the visits, had the whole one of the ranges all to myself. So really enjoyed that, and they had no issues at all. It was kid in a candy shop. I know, again, going to California is sort of a weird place to pick, but I do absolutely love that range, and it would be nice to go back at a later point. Maybe fly into LA, drive out to Oak Tree, and then hightail it out to Nevada, Utah, Arizona, that area of the woods, that neck of the woods. Utah is just a phenomenal place when it comes to guns. It is it's more Texas than Texas when it comes to guns. Jesus, that's not fun for the range officer. Buddy system is very good. Is good reason. Tourists go to gun ranges to self-checkout themselves. Jesus, that's not fun for the range office. Yes, and nobody likes the cleanup. Yes, Daniel, I think everyone could maybe understand why there might be a buddy system. I wasn't going to go there, but you did. But yes, that is again one of the main reasons that they do it. It's, just somebody on their own checking into a gun range. I guess there's a few bad experiences there for range officers and range owners. But yeah, there's a few clubs. It's not mandatory in all ranges, but unfortunately, I guess through bad experiences, they have implemented it at some ranges. Oak Ridge Gun Range in Florida allows single shooters, and I hope married ones too. I'm building up. I am building up like a good. I should do like a my top 5 ranges that I've been to in America, having been fairly privileged to go to a few out there now. Don't know what would come out on top. Maybe SUPs. Maybe SUPs is an incredible range, and on good news. So some of you, and I know Daniel, you'll certainly be heartbroken about this, and I'm sure there may be a few other people, but I will be getting married next April, and we were booking the honeymoon recently, and we will be going out to Florida, not for a shooting holiday. It's very very much for the mouse, but I had said to my fiance and soon-to-be wife, look, it's my honeymoon too. Like we got to go to a range. Like it would really make the trip for me and really seal the deal if I could get like a machine gun in your hands. And she, no, I'm not doing that. She's not necessarily anti-gun as she used to be. Soon got that out of her. But she's not necessarily passionate about firearms, especially full auto. I know, weird, right? But apparently I think it was either some of her close friends or maybe even her family said there is no way that you can go for a honeymoon out in America, out in Florida, and deprive Callum of going for a day of shooting. So I have the pink pass already. I am allowed 1 day of our honeymoon to go shooting, and she basically has to do whatever I want. Not like that, but when it comes to shooting. So we will be going to Machine Gun America, that is for sure. And because I have a whole day, I'll be going to Bass Pro, Cabela's, Machine Gun America, and we'll probably find a less expensive range, maybe head into Orlando City to really get the full experience. I want a tick sheet. I really wanted to shoot a full auto, a handgun, an AR in 223. Yeah, nothing silly. Like I really hate watching these videos where they hand their like 4 foot nothing, skinny as a pole girlfriend. They hand them a Smith & Wesson 500 and they go, this is going to be fun. Like that's just not a good. You're going to switch somebody off from firearms ownership there or any interest. Plus, it's incredibly dangerous. But yeah, something like, an MP5 in full auto, like most people can manage that, no problem at all. 9mm handgun and an AR in 223, more than manageable for my other half, or soon to be other half. The best range was our machine gun shoot and SUP second. Well, in terms of range, like when I say rating ranges, it's not necessarily. It's like I think you're rating the machine gun shoot as number 1 because of what we did on that range, but it wasn't the best range I've ever been to, if that makes sense. It's we could have been shooting on a single lane tunnel range in the middle of nowhere with all of those full autos. It would have still been the best range day of our lives, but in terms of like facilities, in terms of location, gun laws, what you can do there, all of that's what I mean makes up for me the best range. There's one of the nicest ranges that I've been to was the range at, what's it called? Oh, it's a big like rifle shop out in Texas. And it was just a really modern plush range. It looked absolutely incredible, and I didn't get a chance to go on it, unfortunately. But SUPs, in terms of the amount of bays, the amount of equipment, and the stages that they put on there, has to be up there. I mean, like Phoenix would actually be up there. Phoenix up in Barnsley would be up there in terms of one of the best ranges. So would Double Juice in terms of the facility and overall feeling. But yeah, I mean, the Oak Tree Gun Club, the amount of ranges that they had there, the overall atmosphere. Yeah, there's loads of things that go into making a good range. SUPs, is that where they host Desert Brutality? Usually you should You should go there. What is it, Carl, with any brutality match, like Finnish brutality, you should do it. Desert brutality, yes, it's the hard as hell matches run by Brian Nelson. So American Shooting Trips runs trips out to Utah, out to SUP. So I have been fortunate in going there at least twice in the past, as well as the trips out to Kentucky, which obviously went out in April. But yeah, that is where they do the hard as hell or the desert brutality. Daniel, I have your wedding present already. You in a bow doesn't count. Visit one of those places where you can just shoot a tank in Vegas. Just don't tell the missus. Well, the problem is, like, Florida is a long trip away from Vegas, so Sups is an incredible range. Would like to go back. You'll be shooting plenty, I'm sure. Oh, I knew that was coming. Casablanca TV, Howie bro, how's it going? Not bad at all, thank you very much. Thanks for joining. Again, a quick reminder, if you haven't already, hit that like button, make sure you are subscribed. What was her reaction the first time she saw your guns? Well, they were a little smaller than they were. Oh, not those guns. Oh, okay, right. Well, she actually saw both guns, both types of guns on the first night. If you get my drift. I maybe need to like actually sit her down and do this as like a proper video, because it is. It's funny, and also like I look back and I go, how is she still with me? So bearing in mind, like most people, didn't really understand like our laws, didn't know the breadth of what we can own here in the UK, and I don't think had actually ever seen a real gun up until she met me. But the other thing as well, we knew each other previously, sort of, because we both went to the same college, but we didn't. There was a crossover in our friends group, but we had never really spoken. We knew of each other, but weren't necessarily friends. But it wasn't until a few years later, where again it was a mutual friend's 21st birthday, where she ended up at the same. She ended up going, and I ended up going, and then we sort of hit it off from there. So it wasn't actually many years until after college that we started going out. But on that fateful night, she ended up coming back to my place, and sit there, watch a movie, usual stuff. And I remember she walked into my room and saw I had a guitar at the time. I was like really big into playing the guitar for a while. BC Rich Mockingbird. I fancied myself as a bit of a rocker, and she saw the guitar. Now she's a violinist. She's a classically trained violinist, and obviously likes her music. So she saw a guitar and said, "Oh my god, you play an instrument, you like your music." And I was like, "Wow!" And this thing's got like an inch of dust sat on it. Hadn't touched it for so long, and I was like, "No, that's not really my hobby anymore." Okay, what are you into? And I just thought, this sort of logic went through my head of, I might as well just get this over and done with, because if she's not into guns, if she doesn't like guns, then there's no point. There is no point going any further from here. So I proceeded to literally, she's been in my room like a couple of minutes, like literally we only really sort of properly met that night and actually properly spoke for the first time that night. So I proceeded to open up my safe and get, I think it was the Silver Pigeon, and get that and go, this is my hobby. It was a bit like, what the fuck is, like, who is this guy? Oh yeah, didn't you know you can own guns perfectly legally within the UK? Go into a full English shooting mode. Perhaps you can get a firearm certificate at some point and we can go shooting. And she's like, yeah, all right. Put it away. And then she was actually quite honest to say that she would have classed herself as anti-gun. But of course, like, I gave her the full English shooting treatment, and she knows a little bit more. It's still, she enjoys clay shooting. She's been out clay shooting with me a few times. Loves air rifle shooting as well, But I have tried to get her more into practical, but she's just like, you know, she can't risk hurting or damaging herself, because, you know, she's a freelance musician, so, you know, she breaks an arm, breaks her feet, you know, fingers, toes, whatever, then she can't make money. So she's not so keen on the whole practical shooting. She thinks there's far too much risk of injury. But yeah, you know, obviously it limits things, me not being able to take people without anybody else. But once I get, you know, my certificates back, I think going for a clay shoot every now and again, that will most definitely be on the cards. But yeah, it's not her hobby, it's very much mine, but she's not anti anymore. Anyway, that is the story. Perhaps I'll get her on the channel at some point, and we'll do the whole video showing my, I don't know, you know, showing my wife the time I came out as a the time I came out to my wife as a, or fiance or girlfriend or whatever, as a gunaholic. Netflix and chill, my man. I just don't understand this fixation with full auto. I had 15 years in the forces. I prefer hunting and use bolt action for it. It's the fascination is to do with, it's one of the things that we can't just get hold of. It's the forbidden fruit here in the UK. If you come from the forces, you know, there was a guy that I knew who had come from some, let's say, very interesting and special areas of our armed forces, and you know, we had the opportunity to go to ranges while out in the States, and he was just like, you know, to be completely honest, Callum, like, really appreciate the invite. I appreciate you wanting to include me in all that, but I've shot everything and more, like, and I've done it in more fun, interesting ways than you can ever imagine. I'm sort of all done on that front. So I'm like, cool, yeah, not going to ask any more about that. But for me, you know, I've not been in the armed forces, not been in the, you know, the police. I've not come from, you know, it's not, you know, full auto is not a normal thing, and it's something that is just very hard to even see in the UK, never mind actually get behind and pull the trigger. So, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm not, you know, on the flip side of it, you know, if I was out in America, or I live somewhere where I could have a full auto, I would probably have one just as for the novelty factor, just to be able to take friends out and see the smile on their faces. But I don't have enough budget for ammo. Like, it's you know, the day we spent shooting full autos out in America in April, you know, we all went to the range with like at least $200 worth of ammunition each, right? And that was gone in a day, right? That's an incredibly expensive habit to have, right? And, you know, talking to Tom who set that off, you know, Thomas, who really, you know, he invited me and really set that day up, and it was all because of him that we were able to do that. He said, like, you know, I can do this anytime I want, right? But I don't, because it's not, you know, once you've shot one full auto 10 times, then, you know, it's the same every time, and you're just literally burning money. But what he got enjoyment out is setting up the day that, like, we had. He enjoys watching other people have that giggly experience. And, you know, if I was to own a full auto, it would be for that reason. It would be to share it with other people and let other people experience it. But yeah, I might have the opportunity to shoot full auto once, maybe twice a year if I'm lucky. So, you know, something, you know, a little bit of a novelty, something a bit different, a bit special, whichever way you want to look at it, you know, something that you only do once or twice a year. Like, that's the fascination. It's not a fixation or fascination of it. It's just something that you don't get to do on an everyday basis. You know, it's like taking a car on a track, right? Doing a track day, right? Do I want to be at a track every single weekend, burning hundreds of pounds worth of fuel? Like, no. But to do it once, or, you know, a few times a year, it's, you know, to really stretch out the performance of your car, and to go speeds that, you would otherwise lose your licenses on the roads, you know, and you know, to experience. Like, it's something that you don't get to do every single day. Look up at Baron's comment. Baron Jung's opinion. I must say that I used to be very anti-gun, but ever since I began to read more into the hobby of shooting, I've become much more favourable towards guns. It's also nice finding British gun channels. Well, that's fantastic to hear, and I think a perfect, you know, case in point of what I've always said in terms of, well, certainly from my experience of talking to people that are anti-gun, or, you know, necessarily gun apprehensive, you know, not necessarily anti, but just a little bit apprehensive, a little bit unsure. Engage with those people politely, calmly, rationally. Engage, because through information, through the sharing of information and talking and by educating people, like the amount of times people have gone, that's completely not what I thought at all, that's completely different, actually you've completely changed my mind. It happens regularly, because I'll start up the conversation, and when somebody goes, you know, to me, I think all guns should be banned, and I go, okay, right, you're entitled to your own opinion, but why? Like, you know, I'm not trying to challenge, well, I am challenging, but, you know, I'm not trying to be confrontational with it, but explain to me why. And then they go, oh, for this reason, this reason, this reason, and that gives you the opportunity to then break it all down and go, well, did you know about this? And actually, with that reason, did you know that's not true? This is the law. And then you can start to see them go, oh, actually, I had a completely misunderstanding of what firearms ownership was, what shooting is all about. And, you know, it's not about converting people, but at least getting them balanced, you know, being maybe in the center ground, rather than, say, being misinformed and being anti or apprehensive. But yeah, that's part of the reason that I run this channel, and that, you know, I try and address as many firearms laws as possible to maybe put some clarity out there. 2.2 blowback automatic AR style guns are the best full auto, cheap to run and fun. Yeah, I have to say the gun that got the most smiles, the gun that got the most laughs as well, and I think overall the most enjoyment from that full day. And bearing in mind, we were shooting the redneck minigun, which, you know, dual wielding Glock 18s or full auto Glocks, every caliber of full auto under the sun. But the one that just was a barrel of laughs was the open bolt SMG 2.2, the zit. Like, it was, you know, and you think like 2.2, you know, yeah, you know, 1,000 rounds for 120 quid. You could spend all day shooting that. Okay, it's still 120 quid, but you could spend a lot longer shooting that and still experience, you know, full auto and have a good time. But then it doesn't, you know, it was fun and laughed, but it didn't have maybe the impact as the full bore full autos. You know, again, one of the experiences for me shooting full auto is that sort of harness of power. And it's not about, when I say that, it's not about, oh, look at me, I'm a big man, like I shoot full auto, you know, It's like, it's the roller coaster. It's the holding on for like what almost feels like dear life, you know, trying to hold on and control that and just letting the thing rip. That's the adrenaline kick for me with full auto is, you know, like the Desert Eagle, the full auto Desert Eagle. That was a like unbelievable handful. But yeah, you get on a 308 full auto and, you know, or an AK, and that thing, they just rattle, you know, it shakes your whole body holding on to it. And that's for me an element of fun. This is the same way of going onto a track and sending the car into a corner on the very limit and dancing the car. You know, you're keeping it, you know, you are literally one correction away from sending it into a wall. It's you know, you know, what's the expression? It's like It's only when you're the closest to death that you feel most alive. And, you know, of course, we're shooting full autos in a very safe, controlled environment. It's not that it's dangerous. It's not that anyone's near to being hurt. But, you know, it takes a lot more to control that. And it's more of an experience. Full Metal Jacket would like to take that crown. Oh, dear. Adrenaline, yes, it's an adrenaline rush. The same reason I love practical shooting, for sort of a completely different reason, because that's all about really is all about control and, you know, accuracy and pinpoint. But putting that timer, it gets your heart going, it gets your adrenaline up, and there's a rush to it. It's, you know, same way, you know, doing a perfect lap on qualifying, you know, it's the same down to the wire. Time, anyway, you know what I mean. What's this? I had an accidental full auto at rifle weld shoot in Sweden. The disconnector in my AK trigger group broke during the match. Gun go brr. Jeez, did you get DQ'd? No, the RO tried, but since my rifle wasn't select fire, it counted as a malfunction, not willful full auto. I didn't know that was an actual rule. I didn't know you could actually compete in an IPSC match with a gun that was select fire. But I just like that, like, you know, you're having a bit of a crap day and you're like, I could just want to go home. Click, stop. Don't worry, I've run out of ammo. I had like 5 ROers back me up. Yeah, the RO couldn't have DQ'd you for that reason. Did you get it fixed and carry on? I told the ROs I'd fix it and got to carry on. Awesome. Brian, I had a guy 100% against guns in the UK. I took him out rabbit shooting, then fox shooting. Now he wants to go out deer shooting, and he has applied for his FAC. You just need to get people pulling triggers. Callum, are you shooting PSG Saturday at Leon Solon? Unfortunately not. I'd absolutely love to. We had planned to be going, but I ended up triple booked. I can't remember what. So we basically said, oh yeah, it's we're going to go to the Leon Solon shoot because it's going to be like the last match of the year. And we've actually been, I may film this, we'll see. We've actually been invited game shooting. So it's not very often that I get the chance to go game shooting. Of course, we used to be based on a 1,000 acre sporting estate, so, you know, did get introduced to a few bits of game shooting and had the chance a few times there. But yeah, you know, whilst I love my practical shooting, like, this will be the sort of one and only game shoot of the year, so we're going to go up there and accept that invitation. And on that note, on that, me turning my back on practical shooting and becoming a tweed snob. No, we're just, it's fine. We'll take the M2, we'll take the Nova Speed. They won't know what hit them. That's a joke, because you actually legally can't use unrestricted capacity guns on a game shoot. I'll be taking the my Silver Pigeon 1, and Connors actually has a 686 S, I think it is, so he'll be taking that. Yes, Connors can dress up in tweed. I'll get photos. I'll see if we can actually video it. It would be cool. But anyway, on that note, I think I'm going to call it a night there. Before you all go, again, don't forget, hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed. With the help of Arian from Outdoor Technica, we should hopefully have a lot more videos coming out much more regularly, as well as the live stream, so keep an eye on the channel for that. But thanks everybody for joining. Really enjoyed this evening. Again, apologies for last week, but we will all be set for next week, so join us same time, same place. Hope you all have a fantastic week ahead, and yes, Happy, I hope I do see you on Tuesday with some magazines. We'll keep you updated. But yeah, have a fantastic week. Hopefully you get some shooting in, and of course, as always guys, hope to see you soon.